Well, welcome and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Dean.
Let's go straight to it. I know we have limited time, so let's move the question closer to home. So Miami has made a short list for Amazon's second headquarters, and large companies like Amazon could bring thousands of jobs to our state. The state is not funding the Economic Development Incentive Toolkit again this year, against the recommendations of TaxWatch research. If this lack of funding continues, how would you grow Florida's economy from within?
Absolutely. So, folks, I come from a little town called Boston, a state called Massachusetts. And as you know, unfortunately, the state of Massachusetts has taxes that are too high. The wages are very high. And by the way, the weather's terrible. For some reason, people in the state of Florida think that if you just have low taxes and low wages and your weather's great, then every great company is going to make their pathway down to your door. But I can tell you that's not the case. It's not the case at all. The bottom line is, in order for us to attract the right kind of companies to Florida, it's about, I call it the circle of life in Lion King, okay? It's about having the best education, the best health care, the best and strongest environmental policy. It's about having the best, literally, anti-discrimination laws in the country. And it's about having excellent public transportation. And by the way, if you don't agree with me, what I suggest we all do is just take a look at the HR manual of the most admired companies in America, including Amazon, eBay, Apple, GE, Lockheed, Boeing. We can go through all the list. And what you're going to find in their HR manuals is what I just said. That's how they treat their people. That's the culture of their companies. So if we want to actually create a 21st century economy, all we have to do is act a little more like them. And like the old saying is, build it and they shall come. Now, there are people in our state government that feel that an economic vision is a vision of Applebee's, Walmart's, and McDonald's. And your kids leave Florida and they go to good jobs up north. My vision's a little different. My vision's not easy. My vision takes investment. But my vision takes a place like NASA and turns it into our Silicon Valley, okay? And works with our universities to understand that they are the modern day oil wells of innovation. So I can go on and on and on, but I can tell you there's no shortcut. That's how it's going to happen. That's what we need to do if we want to up our game and move into a 21st century economy with a culture of excellence. It's the bottom line. By the way, let's talk about Amazon. I know Jeff. I'm happy that he selected Miami and no other city in the state of Florida. But there are those that say, well, why did he select Miami? There are a few people down there that say, well, maybe it's because Jeff's from Miami, okay? You know? Because I'm sure he didn't do it because of the amazing public transportation. I'm sure he didn't do it for the incredible education. I don't think he did it because of the fact that we have so many programmers. No. Okay, so the bottom line is it's a wake-up call to everybody. If you want the Amazons of the world to come to Florida, you got to do the right things. That's just how it happens. And there's just no other way. That's the bottom line.
Well, you mentioned environmental strategy as part of that. It seems to be there are a few environmental issues in the Miami area. How would you do things differently?
Well, I wouldn't do them differently. Matter of fact, what I have learned is one size does not fit all. When I became the mayor of Miami Beach, some people said I didn't get swept into office. I kind of got floated into office, okay? And because I was facing an existential threat to our city, which is about climate change, which is sea level rise. And I said that if I become mayor of Miami Beach, the one thing I won't do, because I am, and you'll start to hear about me, I'm the most impatient human being in the world. I was the most impatient entrepreneur, I was the most impatient mayor, and God willing, I become governor, I'll be the most impatient governor in Florida history. Because I like to get things done, that's just my nature. What we did, because there was sea level rise coming up, our city was being paralyzed. Investors were losing confidence. We have about $35 to $40 billion worth of real estate we're protecting, as well as the livelihoods and the future of the families that live in Miami Beach. We had to take action immediately. We started raising roads, putting in pumps, raising our seawalls, changing our building codes, making sure people could actually have solar panels on their roofs without having to ask for additional height. I was in a documentary with Leonardo DiCaprio called Before the Flood. I recommend you all see it. I play the mayor of Miami Beach. It's very compelling, okay? And I was with Al Gore in his film, and I was honored to receive the highest honor and medal that the President of France can bestow on anybody in the world. I received the Officer in the Legion of Honor by the President of France for my work on climate change. And what I tell you is this. By the way, the Amazons of the world, they don't want to come to Florida. If you're not going to invest in resiliency, why would they want to invest in Florida? If you can't make sure that Tampa Bay has a future, and Miami has a future, and the St. Johns River in Jacksonville, when it overflows, the whole downtown's not incapacitated, if we're not going to make sure that the Everglades are clean, and Lake Okeechobee doesn't shoot out these algae, if we're not going to take those steps, how do you think Amazon is going to come in here and wager $1 billion or $2 billion for the future of the state of Florida? So my belief is we need to have the most environmentally resilient state, and we need to make sure we protect one of our greatest assets, which is our environment.
You said that you're impatient from a business
Very.
perspective, and I think that's a good value when you're running a business. If elected, you could be facing Republican-controlled House and Senate. Do you think that impatience could get in the way of getting things done? How could you reach across the aisle to make things happen?
I'm a very different type of Democrat, which I think a lot of you read about and heard about. I say the same message whether I'm in front of my Republican friends at dinner or whether I'm in front of a progressive group in Miami. I'm not right and I'm not left, I'm forward. I'm pro-people and I'm pro-business. I'm running as a Democrat, but before I'm a Democrat, I'm an American. And I believe that no one has a monopoly on good ideas, not Republicans, not Democrats, or independents, okay? And I'll say this, in the leftist of the left or the rightist of the right group. And I believe that's what America wants to go towards. The new Speaker of the House is a friend of mine, Jose Leva, from Miami. I had lunch with Jose about 6 months ago, and we were laughing, and Jose was saying to me, I don't want you to be governor, I'm with someone else. He said, but if you do become governor, I said, listen, Jose, the bottom line is, if I'm governor and you're the Speaker of the House, you won't get what you want. I won't get what I want. But we will get what we need, and we will move forward together, okay? And I believe it. When I created my companies, I never asked anybody, are you Republican, are you a Democrat? I never did that. So I believe that when you are an economic vision candidate, and that's who you are as a person, I don't know any Republicans who don't like a good economy, okay? So I think that we'll have the power of the people and the power of my persuasive ability going forward.
For decades now, the Florida school system has been heavily reliant on standardized testing. And that testing has been in a near constant state of change as of late. What role do you believe testing plays in education? And as governor, what would you push for in terms of assessments?
Okay, so this is my thing. I went to public school my whole life in Florida, and thank God I did okay for myself. I believe that testing is not the answer, it's not the everything for everyone. I believe that we should stop testing and start investing in our schools. Yes, we need to have some type of testing to make sure that what we are creating has merit and that we're doing the right thing, but we need to invest in our schools. I mean, we're talking about Amazon. Let's go back to Amazon. So you're Amazon, you're Jeff Bezos, you're sitting in San Francisco, and you're reading, let me see, Florida, okay, they're ranked 45 in the country for how much they invest in their schools. Oh, yeah, my employees are really excited to bring their families to Florida, okay? Oh, let me see here, you pay your teachers $9,000 less than the national average. Oh, that's another great reason that I want to come to Florida. This is not rocket science, okay? We have to invest in our schools, but even more than that, we need to invest in other programs in our schools, vocational schools, and vocational programs. We need to invest in apprenticeship programs. We need to make sure when a kid's in high school who's not going to go to college, that we've already given them the opportunity to earn a living, so they're not making $8.25 an hour. I mean, that's how you create a culture of excellence. That's how these great organizations treat their own employees. Why wouldn't we treat Team Florida, people that live in Florida, the same way?
Every year, Florida TaxWatch releases the Budget Turkey Watch report to promote transparency in the public budgeting and to encourage meaningful legislative review of all appropriations. If you become governor, how would you use the Turkey Watch report into your decision-making process on the budget?
Well, that's a great service that you provide. I think that's excellent. I would use it aggressively because I want to make sure that who's trying to get something for the wrong reasons. I think we saw that quilt museum or something like that. I mean, that's a good one as an example, but I read everything. I read everything, I listen to everybody, and I run a tight operation. I'm a pretty efficient person that doesn't believe in waste, but I believe in not spending, I believe in investing. I think I said the other day, I said, I'm not a tax and spend Democrat, I'm a grow and invest Democrat. That's a little bit different.
Every year, the governor's budget has a theme. What would your first budget say to the people of Florida?
My budget would be exactly about who I am and who my journey is. I believe in the American dream. I started from nothing and I created what I created. I'm investing in the state of Florida by giving back. A little different than most people, as you can probably realize. I really don't need to be governor. I want to be governor. There's a very big difference. So what my budget would be about opportunity. It's about creating a 21st century economy. It'll be about leveling the playing field. It'll be about making an inspirational, aspirational, entrepreneurial state and investing in our state in so many different ways so we can move forward. That would be what my budget will be about.
Final question before we turn it over to the audience.
Sure.
So what do you believe is the single biggest issue our state will face over the next 5 years, and what would you do to tackle it?
You know what comes to mind when you answer the question that way, everyone talks about priorities. There's a lot of priorities, from safer gun control to equal pay for equal work, or everything you imagine. But overall, I really believe, and I've seen a lot of science, and I've lived it in Miami Beach. This once-in-a-century hurricane phenomena that you hear about for climate change, it's not once in a century. It's going to, unfortunately, be once a year. And if we don't invest in the resiliency of the state of Florida and make sure we're not prepared, forget about citizens, forget about these flood insurance companies that are going to desert us because they don't see us investing in resiliency and being prepared, we don't have a future. So I would think overall, we need to get started. We need a chief resiliency officer out of Tallahassee. We need regional resiliency officers around the state to coordinate it. And we're going to need to invest in the resiliency, the environmental resiliency of the state of Florida, which includes flooding, hurricane preparedness, sea level rise. Listen, that Zika thing was pretty unusual. I dealt with it firsthand. We fought it. But that Zika just wasn't because all of a sudden these mosquitoes decided to come fly up into Florida. It's because of the heating of the planet, the moisture, the warmth allowed these mosquitoes to move further north. And this is what happened. So we need to wake up and be ready for this and be a state that's prepared. Because we will have a lot of splaining to do. But we're talking to these big organizations that want to come here going forward.
Questions from the audience? In the back?
Hi, my name is Renata Espinoza. I'm a principal of the Palm Beach County School District. I have a question for you regarding about charter schools that are management companies, charter schools that are not-for-profit, and that deals with choice. What is your intake or what's your point of view about charter schools versus the management, nonprofit, and parents having choices?
Yeah. So let me give you my thought process. Listen, I believe in competition. I think it's great to have private schools and all these things. They're fantastic. But we own a business, okay? It's called the public schools. That's the business we're in. And the one thing I learned as a kid when I built my businesses is kind of like rule number one, is you don't invest in your competition, okay? So my feeling is, why am I investing in someone else's business? And by the way, I know there's a whole cottage industry in Tallahassee, and this one gets campaign money and PAC money from that charter school, and this one's a lawyer who works for that law firm and gets his fees and blah, 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 blah. So they'll talk the talk about how charter schools are for choice. Let me take an example. It's like the post office. We're in the post office business, okay? Some people like the post office, some people think it needs to be improved. But guess what? We're in the actual mail business. Now, I'm not so sure that you all feel that we should take our taxpayer money and go invest in FedEx, in DHL, in UPS. Why? We own the post office. We're in the public school business. Let's make the public schools the best in the country. And by the way, we have the most innovative, incredible superintendent in Miami by the name of Alberto Cavallo. And you know what he did? He created his own division of the public schools to actually compete with the public schools, but under the public school brand. So it's public school teachers, public school management, but with a different twist, so that we can specialize and customize for individual students, so that way parents can have choice, but within our framework of the actual business we own, called public schools. So I'm a big believer in public schools. I'm a big believer in investing in someone else's business. And God willing, if I'm governor, I'm going to do what we need to do, we should have done many years ago, is push our public schools forward so the Amazons in the world don't feel that their employees have to go to a private school because they don't want to go to the 45th in the country, coming from California, where the schools are a little bit better.
I've seen that you have a lot of social media advertising. Do you think that younger voters will be more engaged in this election time?
I think so. I think this gun issue has become a very pivotal issue. We hear from it everywhere we go. We've taken a lead on it immediately. We passed the assault rifle ban in Miami Beach. couple of years ago. Obviously, it's non-binding because of the overreaching hand of Tallahassee, but I think that they will. We're everywhere. We're nonstop. We're in the air, we're on the ground. We're in social media. There's nowhere we won't go. There's no one we won't talk to. We'll go to a county that has 5 Democrats and we'll talk to them. We don't care. We are everywhere nonstop, and thank God the polls have showed it. When I first started this race, everyone said, he has no chance. And then it went to, oh, he's a long shot. And then it went to, well, he has a shot. And then, of course, today everyone is like, oh my God, he has a real shot to be the governor, okay? We knew this a while ago, and we're only getting warmed up. And we're gonna win the nomination, and I'm gonna win the governorship. And you're gonna have a pro-people, pro-business governor who's gonna govern from the middle, who's not gonna govern from this side or govern from this side. He's a governor who wants to bring the state together. That will be my vision for Florida.
Question in the back?
Hi, I'm Clement Christie from Palm Beach County, Florida, and I'm a first-generation immigrant and also a product of Dade County Public Schools. My question is, with the number of students who are going off to college having to obtain student loans, coming out in debt, what is your stance on financial literacy education for students in our public schools?
For scholarship programs.
Yes, for
Yeah.
throughout the whole process.
My idea is this. You live in Florida, you're in Team Florida. We do not know who the next Einstein is. We don't know who the Jeff Bezos is. We don't actually know who the next Steve Jobs is. But if your parents do not make enough money to be able to send you to college in Florida, we should make sure that you can go to college in Florida debt-free as long as you will guarantee and commit to work in our state for a certain amount of years thereafter. And that's a program that I would like to see go forward. But I also believe that not everybody needs to go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. We need to have vocational programs and apprenticeship programs through high school or after high school, so we offer the opportunity for you to earn a living going forward.
How are you going to get these students educated into financial literacy? Not just providing them with jobs, but teaching them financial literacy.
Great point. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Look, so let me tell you how. Don't you remember when we were like kids and we were like in high school and I was in, remember you had like a checkbook and they taught you things and they taught you shop and they taught you skills of life? What happened? All of a sudden you don't need skills of life anymore?
You stopped allowing the students to be able to work and go to work in a bank at the age of 16. That was limited.
I agree with you. And by the way, my 14-year-old is working, okay? And he's learning the meaning of a buck. And I think it's very important. So I believe we need to begin teaching life skills back in school and a little less about teaching how to take a test. Because everyone's terrified if your school gets an F, you're not going to get money. My feeling is if your school gets an F, that means you should get funded, okay? F means funding. Because in business, if a unit's not doing well, you know what we do? We invest in it, make it better. We don't actually get rid of it, because we can't afford to get rid of it. We actually have to improve it, make it better. So I just have a different philosophy. Anybody else?
Phil, thank you very much for coming, and thank you first and foremost for your public service. Tell that story about you were 11 years old, you came from up north, and your family followed you here. I did the same thing, but I actually followed my parents to Hollywood, Florida. My question to you is, we have actually an honor principals, one of whom's here that asked the question earlier. We talked to Arnie Duncan when he was Secretary of Education, great guy, and asked him, said, Secretary Duncan, do you know of a program at DOE, US DOE, or any state, county, or whatever, that really recognizes and rewards the best principals, that are really knocking it out of the park, particularly for low income and tough challenged schools? He said, no. I said, well, we'll develop it. And one of our founders, Bill Lewis, you may know, love him, but he passed away. But he informed us we should do this. We do it now. We've got these folks going to celebrate their tremendous accomplishments. They can't apply, we find that. It's at least science-based or metrics-based, evidence-based recognition for them. What we really want to do now as governor, talk a little bit how you would use these folks. We've got a good cadre of folks now through, I think, 4 years. How would you use them in public policy making? So you ask the folks that are really, the principals in the schools that are really knocking out of the park, overcoming all kinds of odds, for your State Board of Education, as well as when they make laws, we're not asking them. we're asking administrators. So talk a little bit how you would incorporate their wisdom, their leadership in your decision making.
Don, that's a great question. One of the things that we do across the state is we call Florida living rooms. We do living rooms all over the state. I knocked on 6,000 doors that I ran from my Air Miami Beach, and that's one of the big reasons I won. I blew out a pair of Nike Air Maxes. Never thought it was possible. And I wish to God I could knock on 20 million doors in Florida, but I probably wouldn't finish it for another 100 years. So what we have done is these living rooms, where we ask people to invite your neighbors. I want to come in, I want to learn and talk to your neighbors. And we also specialize them. So we just did one in Sarasota with teachers. And we had all teachers, and we talked to teachers. And one of the things they said is, we don't understand, we're on the ground floor. We're actually in the infantry. We're there, we're fighting the battle on the streets. Why is it that no one comes to us and talks to us about what needs to happen? And you listen to that, just what you're saying, and you realize, why are we not listening to the teachers? The teachers know best, remember that, okay? They do know best. So we would absolutely enlist them, engage them. Matter of fact, we have an education department. One of the things I know is, I would say we're gonna have the best and the brightest in the positions in Tallahassee. But there's one more qualification besides being the best and the brightest. You gotta be the best, the brightest, and the most patient, okay? That'll be qualification. But we will make sure that we have those that have been on the front line that understand how to fix the problems we have and put them in positions, as well as have local control and local boards. I mean, I'm sorry folks, what we've seen happen out of Tallahassee, I don't care if it's minimum wage or whether it's a gun safety regulation, they've been preempting everything in Tallahassee. For some reason they forgot what Thomas Jefferson said. Now, I remember he said, government works best as closest to its people. They all seem to forget that. They seem to be following the old Soviet central planning model of the Soviet Union. It didn't work out too well for them. Remember that with Moscow? 5-year plan, central planning, remember how that worked out for them? Well, we want to kind of go back to the way our system was designed, and that includes talking to the local folks, getting them more involved, engaging them on board, putting the right teachers on board. The one thing I won't forget is what one teacher said to me in the living room. This is about a week ago. He said, Mayor, yes, we need more investment. Yes, we need to make our schools safer. Yes, we need to train our teachers better and invest. He said, but let me tell you what we really, really want. He said, we want love and respect. That's what we really feel we're missing. And I'll never forget when he said that. We want love and respect. For some reason, we all forgot that part of that economic cycle we're trying to create here, education is probably the key ingredient, and that's teachers. So, thank you.
Well, maybe you can just hear me. Ray Monteleone, also from South Florida. Coming from Dade County, that it's as acute there as it is in Broward and most of the major urban areas in Florida. And that is workforce can't afford to live where they work. Secondly, we built a state that has a strong economy based on retirees. Many areas, especially South Florida again, the seniors can't afford to stay where they live. I'm a senior, but I'm still more interested in the workforce than the other. Both problems are there. What are your thoughts in that
Sure.
regard?
So as the mayor of Miami Beach, as you know, the land is precious, it's so expensive, it's impossible to pretty much create affordable housing on that little strip of land. So let me tell you what we did instead. We actually raised the first minimum living wage in the history of the state of Florida. And for us, it was the right thing to do because people can't afford to live and work in Miami Beach. And what I said is, listen, I love my friends that own all the hotels, but I'm not really interested in building them employee housing because last time I looked, I wasn't their partner, okay? So they're gonna have to pay their people more so their people can actually work and live in Miami Beach. That was the right step for Miami Beach. Matter of fact, as you all know, we never realized how many entities we'd be sued by when we did that, and we're very proud of it. We're being sued by the state, the government, the Retail Federation. We believe it's gonna go to the Florida Supreme Court this year, and we're gonna win. But I believe that the affordable housing crisis is something which is non-discriminatory based on region. It's everywhere. It's in Miami, and as you know, you watched that film, The Florida Project. It was filmed in Orlando, okay, where it's a disaster. I was with a Puerto Rican family in a hotel room in Orlando, in a living room 2 weeks ago, listening to how they don't even know where they can live. It's impossible. at $8.25 an hour, they're living in a hotel room FEMA's paying for. There's nowhere for them to go, there's no upside, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. What do we need to do? Well, first thing we need to do is stop robbing and stealing from that Sadowski fund. And you get a fund there with hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's for affordable housing, but for some reason, the money ends up going in 25 other directions. That's weird. You know, in business, if you do that, that's called embezzlement, okay? All right? So, you know, that, to me, it's like, that's what it's for. Use it for what it's for. Number two, we gotta come up with great incentives for developers. This is not a one-state solution. No one's gonna go stroke a $10 billion check and go build affordable housing. But what we need to do is come up with great incentives for a lot of developers. I even know them. We know them. Give them great incentives. Get them to start building affordable housing. Make it easy for them. Cut through the process. Make it so it's a simple process that they can get this going fast. I think this inclusionary housing concept is great. I'm not saying that if a developer builds 200 units over here, they don't need to build 50 units there affordable. But make sure you build 50 units that's in a natural area or close proximity so that folks can live. Come up with impact fees that really, truly represent our growth management program and problem and challenges that we have. And part of those impact fees that represent properly are the cost of affordable housing. If you're going to go build 500-800 units, we need affordable housing. So I think it's a combination of having someone that has an entrepreneurial business mind that can talk the talk as well as walk the walk and get them moving and get it done. That's my vision. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. Really enjoyed being all here.